Well, I can definitely tell you one thing. I'm going to think twice before I stay in an Airbnb again. Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So today we are talking about the new horror movie Barbarian, which hits theaters this weekend. A young woman discovers the Airbnb she booked is already occupied by a stranger. Against her better judgment, she decides to spend the night, but soon discovers there's a lot more to fear than just an unexpected house guest. Georgina Campbell plays the character of Tess, who she's the one who ends up booking this Airbnb, but she gets there and finds out that it's actually been booked by someone else named Keith, who's played by Bill Skarsgard. Now, the two end up working things out where she ends up staying the night because she doesn't have anywhere else to go. But outside of that, that is where I'm going to stop because that is all that is in the one trailer, really. So I'm not going to say anything else because I highly suggest to you guys that you go into this thing as blind as possible. That's what I did. I only saw the one trailer that I believe got released with like the black phone. It's been playing like a couple other movies. I've only seen that one trailer, and I can tell you guys that Thank you God, we finally have a trailer that doesn't spoil the whole movie. And honestly, I was able to avoid spoilers too, and I think that's going to be your best experience with this film. So if I'm kind of vague in this review, that's because I don't want to give anything away and I want you guys to get the best enjoyment out of this as possible. I'm going to start off the positives with talking about the director, Zach Cregger, which he's worked in films. He's even, I think, directed a couple of things. I'm not really familiar with a lot of his work. So this, for me, I believe is really my first introduction to his stuff. And he does a really good job of, right from the get-go of this film, you just get this really uneasy feeling that something is wrong here. Shit's about to go down at any moment, and that really doesn't let up throughout the whole film. There's even moments where there is comedy bits, kind of some like dark humor sprinkled throughout, but even with that introduced, you still have that uneasy feeling throughout the film, and that's definitely one of my favorite aspects about Barbarian. There's also some great camera work in this movie, some really cool shots that I appreciated. I thought the cinematography was fantastic. There's one shot in particular, and I'm not going to go into too many details, but there's a moment where you see a character and you almost get like a first-person shooter type of shot and looking kind of down like a hallway, and that's all that I'll say. But that was probably one of my favorite shots in the film, but there's a number of other ones just like that, similar. Just some really cool angles littered throughout this movie that I just found myself sitting there and just being mesmerized by some of the camera work that's in this film. So something else that I really dug. Characters that you're interested in are always important, especially, to any film, but really for horror films, because you've got, in order to be, scared, to feel like on edge, you definitely gotta care about these characters in some aspect or just interested to see what happens to them. We get so many films where it's like, you just don't really care like what happens at all. So I thought as far as both Tess and Keith, I thought that Campbell and Skarsgard, they did a really good job with their performances. There are some other characters that pop up in this movie. I'm not going to mention who the actors are. I believe you might have seen, it's been a little while since I've seen the original trailer. You might have seen them in there. But if you haven't seen them, haven't seen the trailer, don't go on IMDb because you might be surprised by some of the people that pop up. So again, just being very vague about that kind of stuff. As far as horror aspects goes, there's definitely both implied as well as you do get your fair share of gore too. So when certain things happen in this movie, yeah, you definitely get it thrown at you, which I really appreciated. But I kind of like the implied aspect as well, because sometimes that can even work even more effectively than just getting to see a bunch of gore and things like that. One of my other favorite aspects, there's definitely some of the like horror cliches in here, but the way that this film plays out, the pacing, it's so hard to talk about this movie without giving spoilers. So I will just say, there is moments where this film takes a couple turns. The tone kind of shifts a little bit. And when it first happened, I kind of looked at my friend and was like, wait, like what is going on right now? But once it plays out, I thought it worked really well and I actually loved it. It's definitely a little unconventional for sure. So that might throw some people off, but for me, it added to the ride for me because I couldn't really, even though there is some cliches where it's like you think you might have an idea of how this film is going to play out, they're like, you get to that point, they're like, nope, we're going to go this way actually instead. And I really appreciated that. So again, just go into this thing knowing as little as possible. And I think that you're definitely going to be in for quite a fucking ride here. And one of my biggest things that I love about Barbarian is this is something that hasn't been done a million times before. It definitely has its influences for sure, and I can't get into those again because if I say those, it'll probably give aspects of the film away. But it definitely has its aspects. But the way that this film is done and overall the idea, I thought was really original. And any time that you can get an original horror film, I am all for that because, we get a ton of sequels, prequels, things like that. And don't get me wrong, I love a lot of those films. But anytime we can get kind of a new original idea, sign me up right away, baby. And that's exactly what Barbarian does. So, and honestly, the only thing that I will say as far as like influences go is that for me, there was definitely some moments that I felt the influence of Sam Raimi a little bit here. And then that's all I will say about that. Overall, Barbarian draws you in right from the get-go and delivers one hell of a ride, making this one of my biggest surprises of 2022. Definitely one of my favorite horror films of 2022. So I would say you guys check this out for sure, especially if you're a horror fan. And again, just go into this as blind as possible because I think that a lot of you guys are gonna really enjoy this. So overall, as far as the rating goes, I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. It's definitely one of my favorite horror films of the year so far. And we've had some great ones. I mean, horror, as far as like top of my head, I mean, we've had X, we've had Scream, we've had The Black Phone, we're at Pearl's coming out next week, which I'm really pumped for. And it's really interesting because, and I'm sure I'm definitely like missing a couple like there for sure. But it's interesting with this movie because I remember seeing the trailer, like I said to you guys, when I saw, I think it was Black Phone, had no idea anything about this movie, saw the trailer and was like, okay, like, yeah, it's something I'll probably check out, when it comes out. Really didn't have a lot of hype for it. But as we started getting closer to the release date, I kept hearing a lot of really good word of mouth, which sometimes can be bad because can get you a little too hyped up. But I was really excited to see this movie last night. And man, for me, it just delivered really in all aspects. So I definitely want to hear what your guys' thoughts are. So let me know down below in the comments. Just give me your overall thoughts, reaction. Definitely keep it spoiler free so that way everyone else can enjoy it just like myself and you got to. So just let me know your overall thoughts. And if you guys are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it. That way you get notifications for all my new videos. I'm definitely going to be doing a lot for Halloween this year, so I'm really excited and I want to be able to share that with you guys. And as always, guys, please make sure to check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.